Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, welcome to a new episode of the Qur'an Science. This is Tamir Mumtaz with you and welcoming our dear professor, Dr. Zaghloul AL-Nagar. Also with us, our dear guests, dear brother Fuad and brother Mustafa. In this episode, we'll talk about creation from water. But first, we'll listen to verse number 30 from Surah Al-Anbiya, which deals with our topic today.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون.
And we have made from water every living thing. Will they not believe?
Professor Zaghloul, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everything from water. Is that right?
Yes. I begin with thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, the creator of the universe and of everything that's in it, the sole master of the worlds, without parallels, partners, or similitudes, the most compassionate, most merciful, and I seek His blessing of our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the seal of prophethood and the seal of messengerhood from Allah for the guidance of man. And I greet you all in our Islamic way. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
And this greeting also goes to you, to our audience. May Allah's peace, blessings, and mercy be with you all. The Quran reads in this verse, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Verily, we have made out of water every living thing. Will they not then believe? And the address is to the unbelievers, to the associators, to the agnostics, people who do not believe in a creator. Allah is showing His might, knowledge, and wisdom in His own creation. And He said, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. Verily, we have made out of water every living thing. Will they not believe? When we ponder about this verse, we have to see very many notions. First of all, this part of the verse comes immediately after the Big Bang, or what we consider as a comment on the Big Bang theory, the process of creation of the earth. The verse starts by saying, أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Verily, haven't the unbelievers seen that the firmament and the earth were a singularity, a single thing in their early beginnings, before we broke them asunder, and showing the might of the Creator, the wisdom of the creation. And then immediately He says, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. And we have made out of water every living thing. This immediately indicates that the creation of water was before the creation of life. And this has been thoroughly documented, see, in the rocks of the earth, that Allah has created the earth, has allowed the various activities, internal and external activities, to take place, so that He built the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, leveled the surface of the ground, cut ravines and roads and valleys, and created rivers and lakes, seas and oceans, and infilled all that with water, started the water cycle. And after the completion of all that, life was created. This is the first thing. Second thing, we know that the earth is around 5 billion years old. Actually, they say 4.6 billion years old, but this is just an estimation. It could go to more than 5 billion years old, because the universe is 13 to 14 billion years old, And I believe that the earth and the firmament were created in one go, in one event. But because of the fact that the rocks of the earth are usually subjected to metamorphism and change, of course we lose some of the data that were in there.
Yes, yes.
Anyhow, the oldest record of life on earth goes back to 3.8 billion years ago. This means that at least we had 1.2 billion years the earth without life. Only water, and there was no life. And this verse emphasizes this fact, that water was created before life, simply because life cannot exist without water. And that's why the Qur'an says, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. And from water, we have created every form of living things. Again, we find that water constitutes the bulk of the bodies of all living forms. A newly born baby will have about 90% of the weight of its body water. A grown-up man will have about 71% of the weight of his body water. A lady would have about 60% of her body weight water. And strangely enough, we can find some plants and some animals that have much higher percentage of water than humans. But the strange thing is that the percentage of solids in a human body, in an average man, to water is exactly the ratio between land and sea. 71% and 29%. And this is again a reflection on the wisdom of creation and the greatness of the Creator, subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And the unity.
The unity as well, yes. And more than this, we can easily see that any biological function cannot take place in the absence of water. Take it eating, digesting, secreting, sweating, eye drops, anything, tears, you see, anything in the body of a human being can never function in the absence of water. So nowadays we know that all the biological functions cannot take place in the absence of water. Water constitutes the bulk of the bodies of all living beings, and water was created long before life was created. All these meanings, all these facts that have not reached the knowledge of man until the end of the 20th century have all been expressed in this part of a verse. It's not a total verse. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. All these meanings have been expressed in this part of the verse. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. Verily, we have made out of water every form of living beings.
Even the micro, like bacteria, even the small thing.
Definitely.
Even the bacteria.
Definitely. You see, life cannot exist in any form, in any environment, in any shape without water. And that's why man can withstand hunger for probably 30 days.
30 days without food.
Oh, yes, without food.
Wow.
But he cannot withstand being thirsty for more than 3 days. He would die.
Only 3
He would
days.
dehydrate and die, you see. And really, this expression in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ, is a unique expression. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ, 6 words that carry all these meanings, which were not reached by man except by several researches, by many scholars, in many decades, everyone in his own field, that they could reach this conclusion. We had astronomers, geologists, botanists, zoologists, and medical doctors, or people who study human beings in general. They all were searching along these lines until such conclusion was reached.
But I want to ask a question here, which a normal person would ask. In the Quran it is said that man is created from clay.
Yes.
and this verse says that everything has been created from water,
Yes.
which someone might say it is contradicting. How can we answer to them when they say
There
this?
can never be any contradiction in the glorious Quran.
No. Yes.
I attended a conference at London University many years ago, and the conference was on the Quran.
Okay.
And we had many Orientalists at this conference. And really, sadly enough, old age Orientalists were all of them anti-Islam. Because the process of Orientalism emerged from the foreign ministries and was really the forefront of spying on the Muslim world. And they were the forefronts of occupation as well of most of the Muslim countries. So the old age Orientalists were completely anti-Islam, Jews and Christians. But young Orientalists were mostly in favor of Islam. We had in this conference 17 full professors in the range age of 30 to 40, 45. They were all Muslims. And one of them, wallahi, had embraced Islam the night, on the evening of that conference. And when he stood up, he told his story, why he embraced Islam. In this conference, an elderly professor from Australia stood up and said, the Quran tells us sometimes that creation of man is from water, another time from dust, a third time from clay, a fourth time from rotten clay, hama'in masnoon, a fifth time from plastic clay like ordinary clay, salsal. And what's correct? I stood up and asked him, do you know the Arabic language? He said, yes. I said,
which nationality was he? Which nationality? Australian.
Do you know the Arabic, the meaning of this Arabic? He said, oh, yes. I told them Arabic is my mother tongue. And I cannot understand salsalim min hama'in masnoon until I go back to several dictionaries, until I can find out the meaning.
Right.
How could you catch this like that? He said, I don't need it. I know Arabic. I said, do you have any scientific background? He said, no. My area is literature. I said, if you had any scientific knowledge, you could understand that these are successive stages in the creation. You see, water is the source.
Yes.
And then comes dust.
Yes.
And when you water dust, it becomes clay.
Yes.
When you leave clay to rot, it becomes rotten clay.
stages.
Exactly.
If you leave the rotten clay to dry up, it will give you plastic clay. You see? And then from that plastic clay, Allah has created man.
Subhanallah.
And I told him areas of creation cannot be debated by men, by humans, because it's something beyond the capacity of the human mind to comprehend. Allah is ordering things be, and it will be.
Yes.
And He has created man out of clay, out of mud, out of water. It's all correct. And there is no contradiction whatsoever in that. And strangely enough, when a human dies, he passes by the reverse stages.
Yes, he returned.
Really.
Flashback.
Reverse, exactly, as the Quran describes it. Of course, the body starts to rot. It will give you rotten clay. Then it will start to dry. It will give you plastic clay. Then it will break down, change into dust. And at the beginning, it loses its water. In the first stage.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the reverse process, you see, of what the Quran has described. Anyhow,
Professor, we'll stop just for a
Okay.
short break, and we'll
Okay,
continue
okay,
after the
okay.
break. Please wait for us. Assalamu alaikum.
The main concepts of Islamic economics, how is it different from the Western theories?
And the beauty about Islam is not that it just came as a religion to perfect the relationship of the servant of Allah with Allah. but also it came to perfect the relationship of the servant of Allah with others. The beauty about Islam, Islam comes and brings the interest of the public and the interest of the individual together.
How is Islamic banking different from the traditional banking system?
The concept of riba is that I lend you money, I give you a loan, in return that you give me back that loan with an extra at the top.
The idea of the stock market itself is halal or haram.
So these are the main conditions that the scholars put with regards of the share market.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and continuing with our dear professor. Professor, before the break, you were telling us that death is the reverse process of creating a human being.
When a living being die, human, animal, or plant, it goes in exactly the reverse process. So if a human body, if a human dies, his body starts to rot, and finally his tissues and his bones and everything decays, and the first thing it loses is water, and then it becomes rotten clay, and then it becomes plastic clay, and then it becomes dust. You see, which is the reverse process of the process of creation. And water is really a very, very characteristic liquid. We don't know of any other liquid that has got the characteristics of water. We have very many liquids, but water has got specific properties that make it clearly distinguished from any other liquid. First of all, water is a dipolar molecule. The water molecule H2O is dipolar. The two H's, two hydrogen atoms, carry a positive charge. And the oxygen atom carry an almost equal negative charge. So it works like a magnet. Actually, it works like a magnet. And it reacts with things, with its two poles. And that's why the Qur'an says, when Allah sends down water on the soil, فَإِذَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْهَا الْمَاءِ اهْتَزَّتْ وَرَبَتْ. When water comes down on soil, it will shake and jerk, you see, and rise up, you see. And actually, this was photographed by slow motion.
Yes.
And it cannot be better expressed than that. اهتزت وربت. And this is mainly due to the fact that the soil of the earth is composed of flaky minerals. Clay is a flaky mineral, found in tiny, thin flakes. And these flakes carry electric charges. So they react with the opposite charge, and they, of course, drift away from each other. Secondly, these flakes carry some gases in between. And once you water it, the gases are expelled off, so it can help in that uprising and in this shaking. Thirdly, clay minerals are hungry for water. So they become hydrolyzed. And they are, as they are hydrolyzed, they inflate and bulge out to help in this process of rising up. Water has got the highest specific, the highest surface tension we know of any other soil except mercury. And mercury is a metal, so it's not a liquid. So with this surface tension, water can rise by capillarity. In tiny tubes. And this is essential for plant life to exist. Because water is taken by the roots, and Allah has given it the capacity to rise up, whatever tall the tree may be. Some of the
palm trees
can reach 20 meters high, 25 meters high. You can't have a man-made pump that could push to that level, you see. But this is done due to the surface tension of water. Water has got many other physical-chemical characteristics. which I
Large
don't
heat
want-
capacity.
I beg your pardon?
Large heat capacity.
Large heat capacity, you are absolutely right, yes. It boils at certain degree. Another strange thing about water, once you change it from form to another form, it releases electricity. If you change water from liquid to vapor, or liquid to solid, it releases electricity. And this is the main cause of lightning in clouds.
Okay.
Thunderstorm, during thunderstorms, you get this lightning. It's actually discharge of electric charges, you see.
But that in huge amounts, because when we boil water in a
Yes.
kettle, for example,
Yes.
and it changes from the liquid phase to the vapor phase,
It releases energy.
Energy, but not electricity.
Electricity.
But we don't see that in the kettle.
Well, yes, because you see, first of all, the vapor goes out quickly,
Okay.
and the charged particles don't remain inside the kettle.
Because it's small scale.
A small,
Very
small
small scale.
scale. Strangely enough, I was given a book last year to write the introduction of it. And the book came to me during the month of Ramadan, and I was in Mecca. And a friend of mine came to me and he said, we have translated this book from English to Arabic, and we would like you to write a preface for it or an introduction for it. I told him, this is a month of worshipping. I do not have time to review books at that time. He said, believe me, if you see the book, you would like to read it. I said, what's the title of the book? He said, The Message from Water. Well, bring the book. The book was in 5 volumes. I said, how could I read this? He said, don't worry. Most of the book are in the form of pictures. And there is only a small introduction at the beginning of 20-25 pages, and a small summary at the end of about the same volume. So he said, you will not take much time to look into it. I read the book. It's authored by a man, a Japanese professor or doctor called Masaru Emoto. Masaru Emoto said that he read in one of the books that the water crystals, the ice crystals that fall from the sky, never look the same.
Subhanallah.
And he said, this is not scientifically correct. He said, we know that the crystal form depends on the chemical composition. And we know the chemical composition of water 100%. H2O,
they
2
should
atoms
all be
of
the
hydrogen
same.
and 1 atom of oxygen. What would make snowflakes or snow crystals falling from the sky not look the same?
Each single one is different.
Each one is different.
Each one is different.
Yes. And he said, I have to nullify this hypothesis. I have to prove it wrong. I said, I went back to Tokyo and started preparing a laboratory to study this phenomenon. And laboratory needed a deep freezer with a regulator, because if you chill water directly, it changes into ice, it will not give you crystal. So you have to regulate the temperature so that you can get crystalline forms. And one of the miracles of creation is that each chemical compound has got a certain crystal form. So much so that if you see the crystal form and study it carefully, you can tell the chemical composition precisely without analyzing it. Yes. And there is a branch of geology called crystallography, the science of crystals. And this man said he had this deep freezer with a regulator, a conditioned room that gives a temperature of minus 7 degrees centigrade, a number of microscopes with cameras built in so that he can photograph these ice flakes or crystals before they melt, and certain clothing for the scientists who are working in that room. I said, I got 2 samples from water, from 2 different taps. They gave me 2 different crystal forms. From 2 wells, from 2 rivers, from 2 lakes. He said, I almost lost my confidence in myself. And I thought that something magic is going around me. He said, a Muslim student passed by me and he said, what are you worrying about? He told him the story. The Muslim student told him, we have a blessed water called Zamzam water. I can get you a sample from it and test it. If it gives the same result, well and good. If it deviates from what you have observed, then you have some magic in your work. So he said, they brought me a sample from Zamzam water, and it gave me a beautiful crystal form, which is unique. And he said, I could not get a crystal from Zamzam water until I diluted it 1,000 times. Wow. A centimeter became 1 liter. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ describes this water by saying, ماء زمزم طعام طعم وشفاء سقم. It's a food for those who need it, and a medicine to cure many diseases. Yes. And of course there are many sayings by the Prophet ﷺ about the well of Zamzam. He said, but the crystal which I got was actually 2 overlapping crystals. And I asked this Muslim student, why 2 crystals? He said, he immediately told me, because Zamzam is composed of two words. Zam. It's composed of 2 words. Yes. He said, this tempted the Muslim student to ask me, why shouldn't we allow this glass of water to listen to a Quranic recitation?
A regular water or
regular water?
Oh, regular water.
Yeah. He said, they gave me a tape of Quran. Yes. And put the recorder besides the cup of water, and we allowed the water to listen to some of the Quranic recitations, and he said, it gave me the best crystal form I could ever get. Well, they start, why don't they allow the water to listen to the adhan? Allow the water to listen to some good words, as-salam, peace, love, fraternity, any good word. And this went on, and every case the water will give a different crystal form. And he said, one of the most beautiful crystals I got was the sample. We wrote on it Bismillah. And the man says, I don't know what Bismillah is, but we had a fantastically beautiful crystal.
They made the water listen to Bismillah.
Yes, no, he wrote on the listen, just write on the tube carrying the water.
Okay.
Yes. Then he was tempted to call water all names. You are a bad liquid. You are useful for nothing. It wouldn't crystallize.
Oh my God.
Or would give an ugly crystal.
I hope his message from his book was that water is from Allah.
Definitely.
So it looks like the water can hear and can understand.
This was his main conclusion, that this peculiar fluid has a memory, and it can read, and can see, and can react, and express its reaction.
Yes.
He said, I got a glass of water and put it on the photograph of the Kaaba. He said, we didn't say a word. It gave a picture of similar to the Kaaba, with many heads revolving around it.
A crystal similar to the Kaaba.
Yes. And the book really is one of the best sellers of today. I just mentioned this story because really it testifies to the uniqueness of water. It is a unique solution. It's not like anything else. And when I was writing the preface or the introduction to this book, I recalled why Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has advised us, don't drink or eat without saying Bismillah. And thank Allah before you drink, after you drink, and after you eat. You have to thank Allah after everything you drink and everything you eat, especially water. And he, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, used to say, Alhamdulillah alladhi asqanihi azban zalalan birahmatih wa lam yaj'alhu milhan ujajan bidhunubina. Thanks to Allah, who made this water potable and sweet and enjoyable to drink through his own mercy. And he did not make it bitter or sour or revolting to drink by our own sins, you see. And I also recalled why Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has advised us to make ruqyah. And the ruqyah is just reciting a few verses from the Holy Qur'an and doing some supplications to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and rub your body with it. You just rub your body with it. And I immediately understood, if water in a glass would react with the Qur'an, why shouldn't water in my body would react the same with the Qur'an?
Yes, subhanAllah. Well, dear Professor, this is very interesting, but sadly we've come to the end. So maybe, inshallah, in another episode we would concentrate more on this subject. Thank you very much, Professor Zaghloul. Thank you, our guests. Thank you, dear viewers. Until next episode, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.